Among the 7 I was, so I was told, considered Nitok's plaything and concubine. In the early days of war, they appointed me Vice-Regent Grand Carnus at her goading, thinking it a jest. How quickly their laughter turned to solemn applause as I brought home the news of one victory after another. The blood of better men dappled me like medals. In secret, I amassed weapons for Nitok. It was easily done. I was too glorious a figure to be suspected. Nothing quite speaks to the pomposity with which we creatures treat the carnage of war quite as succinctly as the bannermen, those who must be protected at all costs and followed without question. And who may be threatened, I might add, to follow orders that no sane soldier would ever complete, lest they somehow come to suffer some more terrible fate, laughable though it is. It was always their forms my eye was drawn to amongst the rest, though their mangled bodies were no different from any other. It was always the standard they still bore, glittering in its Orokin gold and smeared in dappled crimson. I always ensured it stood proud upon the field before I departed. I recall them now, coteries of laughing Orokin youth, nobility clad in the as yet unspoiled raiments of command. Childhood friends now in charge of legions of Dax, of Grineer, null matter cells, self-replicating carcinators, primitive biodrone blade spiders, canisters of low-tech troops, golden boys and girls with ravening devils at their beck. Their arrogance trickles like stinging sweat into my mind. They drank and sang, boasting of the times to come. They would make names for themselves, raise their families high in honor. So many of them fell. Not even their bodies were returned. To prevent the enemy from gleaning our secrets, they were Kuva-jolted to liquefy upon death. The hope of a generation turned to an oily puddle, sloshed through by Grineer boots. It was Skarn, testy, cerebral and acerbic, who had first mooted the plan back in the days before the war. We must fly the nest, for the nest is on fire. Through over-exploitation and reckless experiment, we had fouled the system beyond hope of regeneration. Expansion to new horizons was our only option now. He too inaugurated the cowardly towers in the void. The dread of a sentient return was so strong in him that he could only imagine retreat to islands within the void sea. How little credit we gave the sentients for courage. They willingly endured the void's scalding fire purely for the chance to punish us. After the first sentient invasion of the system and the disastrous Orokin riposte, a curious silence reigned. We had no word from our people stranded in Tau, and no way to know whether their signals were being jammed or they had been entirely obliterated. I found myself petitioned for opinions. As strategist, I was expected to comprehend the enemy. The sentients could have destroyed the solar rail terminus above Tau at any time, yet the rail was still active. Why? What did they gain from leaving the gate open? Were they united in their aggression? Or did some yet hope for peaceful coexistence? Monstrosity and excess had served us admirably in the past. I was expected to apply them as war tactics. How had we tamed the infestation in our ancestors' time? Rip open the atom's heart like a rosebud, of course. As one, the seven bade me become a devil with a trident of warheads, a sower with a satchel of rampant radiation. That was the day we learned the sentients were not only capable of nullifying our technology, but also of commandeering it. The flock of wicked little leveler drones we sent out came winging merrily back to us, still heavy with bombs, chortling in unknown syllables, detonating in the midst of the very motherships that dispatched them. The losses were absurd. Many refused the data outright and deemed them errors, or lies, or cephalon conspiracies, raised and glutted on Orokin subterfuge. It was easy for them to reject the truth now. From that moment forth, they lived in a fantasy engineered for their comfort. We were winning. The sentients were in retreat. All who thought otherwise were traitors. Many of the sentients evolved between encounters, so we could never be sure that we would face the same foe twice. But others remained in consistent form, as if they had reached some plateau long ago. Perfected killers. They brought the same cold horror that a shark does. It was insanity. How could I strategize around the behavior of sentient crabships, when no sooner had my tactics been perfected than the crabships were replaced by wormships? And how long before those wormships were themselves replaced by some new monstrosity? All we could do was go backward. Progress had been fatal. Old traditions, time-hallowed paths of honor and discipline were owed their due. I was effortlessly expert with many of our weapons, but I excelled in the use of one. The lie. I brandished it most often against my own troops. I whipped them to the bone with lies of duty and discipline. I smothered them with the lie that the war could be won. I pierced them with the lie of my favor, my most esteemed regard for them. Alone, in private, I turned that weapon on myself. Oh, how I bled!